For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kerry Holzman, and sort of making this a tradition, I think since about 2003, 2004. I'm usually here once, if not twice a year. And my presentation style is a bit different than what you may be accustomed to. Back in the day, companies used to send representatives out to computer clubs to tell you about a product. And they would often say, you know, we're going to dim the lights, we're going to put the presentation on the screen, hold your questions till the end. And when I was a member of the computer club, that's when I got up and walked out. When the lights went down, I snuck out. So when I do a presentation, I like to do it a little differently in that I don't have any sort of predetermined agenda. I want to talk about what's on your mind, and that works by you just raising your hand and asking a question, and I will do my best to answer it. I think most people who participate will find it more enjoyable than people who are just spectators. However, I don't want to pressure you. Sometimes it just takes a couple of questions to get things rolling, and then other people think, oh, now I have a question. Other times, questions someone might be embarrassed to ask, somebody else asks. So don't be embarrassed to ask any questions that you think are simple. I like the simple questions. They make me feel smart. So the hard questions, yeah, those not so much. So I'm going to start things off today. I'm such a computer nerd. Let me back up a step. Happy New Year, and hope you had a Merry Christmas. All right, now we can get to business. All the niceties are out of the way. In the news, here we go. You will have heard of two CPU exploits. One is called Spectre, and one is called Meltdown. Computers and technology are so complicated, so complex, millions of lines of code, millions of transistors. There's always going to be an exploit or a bug or something that was never intended to be a bug suddenly becomes an avenue for hackers. Since 1995, Intel has implemented a strategy in their CPUs that allows them to sort of predict what you're going to do and be able to provide you with an answer almost instantly when you go do the thing it predicted that you were going to do, or the software that you're running. And this predictive branching, as it's called, is a feature that Intel introduced to make the chip seem to be faster. That was in 1995. And it's been used in their chips ever since then. Well, because computers have become so much more powerful, and another generation of hackers growing up with this stuff sees things a little differently. They have figured out a way how to manipulate that. How many years later has it been? 22 years later, right? We're 1995 to 2018. 23 years later, they have figured out how to read that data that's in the CPU that's there designed to make everything go faster. And the news is going crazy about it, saying how there's this potential for all of your personal information that you enter into the computer to not be so personal anymore if you were to be hacked. If somebody were to take advantage of this exploit, the problem is in the chip itself. So Microsoft has come out with a patch that automatically, if you should have already received this patch if you're running Windows 7, 8, or 10. And many people have complained that their computer is now slower as a result. However, in all likelihood, end users such as us really shouldn't notice any slowdown. It's the big web services, it's the big corporations and their large servers that would be most likely to experience the slowdown to an effect that it actually impacts their productivity. So a lot of people are up in arms about this. There may be some class action lawsuits coming out against Intel. AMD then says, hey, AMD is the competition for Intel. When Intel was founded, all these guys used to work together at a place called Fairchild Semiconductor way back in the day. And they left the company, and 3 of them went off to start Intel, and 2 of them went off and started AMD. They all used to work together. And it's sort of a Ford and Chevy argument. What we're talking about is the CPU, or the central processing unit, or the brain of the computer. Intel makes those, AMD makes those. So now AMD is saying, hey guys, our chip doesn't have that problem. You should buy ours. However, this other exploit called Spectre affects both chips equally. And I don't want to get too into the technical side of it, other than to say you're going to see, if you haven't already, you're going to see a lot of this in the news, a lot of it. And the news is primarily talking about how this affects corporations. You think that they would just publish this in a trade magazine, but unfortunately, they plant the seeds of doubt into the consumers, and the consumers sort of feel like, oh, now my computer's running slower. You know, just sort of a psychosomatic effect. And some people have gone so far as to say, I'm not going to put that patch on my computer because I saw on the news it's going to slow my computer down. And what do you think that end result's going to be? So I want you to not be too worried if you've seen this on the news. If you haven't, I'm sure you will. It's been all over. It has not been resolved yet. I don't know how many of you were here a couple of, well, I guess it was last month. I have a YouTube channel, that's where I'm at right now. And I went outside and I saw this in the sky, you can look out there. And I said, what? And then I ran back in the house and grabbed my camera. This isn't computer related, but it's tech related, and it's really cool. This launch happened out of Vandenberg Air Force Base, over 500 miles away, and that's how big it looked in the sky here. Today they're launching another one, about 2 o'clock our time. I don't know if we'll be able to see it, but you might want to look out towards the west around 2 o'clock. The one that's launching today is a different rocket than that. This is Elon Musk's Falcon 9 rocket. He's the guy who has the Tesla cars. And he's launching, well, this launch, he's launching 10 satellites around that one rocket. There's a company called Iridium. Many of you probably haven't heard of it. And they, right now they have 66 satellites in orbit, and they rent or lease those out to telecommunications companies. It's big money. So these are low orbit. They don't stay in orbit very long. They fall out. So they're launching another 66. They do 10 at a time. And this launch, I think, was 31 through 40. So they still have 2 more launches going up that should be identical to that if they're coming out of Vandenberg. And it's just a really neat thing to see in this. I've never seen anything like that before. And what's really neat is Elon Musk, they need to send a rocket to Mars. They need to see if they can do it. And they said, well, what are we going to send to Mars? We have to put something in the payload. So he's taking his original Tesla electric car, and he's putting it in the payload of the rocket, and he's sending it in orbit around Mars. I don't know what it's like to have that kind of money, but it must be nice. Obviously, a car is a big, heavy payload, and one of these rockets isn't going to cut it. And what NASA would do is NASA would build a bigger rocket. What Elon Musk is doing is he's saying, we've already got the rocket, we just need 3 more of them and tie them together. So we have 3 rockets tied together. That'll give us the weight or the thrust we need to lift that car up and get it out of here. So next month, and it should be launching out of Vandenberg, they're doing what they call the Falcon Heavy, which, so if you can imagine what that looks like, imagine 3 of those. And at the same time, this is how crazy this guy is. I know this is off topic, but I'm such a nerd. I just love this. When you watch a rocket launch, you go, if you just look back at the 1930s or 40s and said, in the future there'll be rocket launches and people won't even bother to look up, they're going to be so common. He is, normally when the booster rockets, they normally have little charges that go off because the booster rockets have to come off for the center to keep going. And they don't mess around. They're like, just blow some charges and get rid of them. Elon Musk wants to reuse those, so they've created this hydraulic arm system that pushes the booster rockets away gently. And so I'm so excited to watch, and hopefully we'll be able to see this launch because there's so many things that have to get right. First of all, You don't want it to explode. Okay, there's step one. You go, okay, rocket's going up, yay. Then you see the boosters separate. Oh, that's a big, big wow, right? That's 2. And then the main engine separates, so the payload section keeps going. And then that's 3, and you go, wow, okay, that's another clap. And then they're going to land all 3 of the boosters back on their feet here at Earth to reuse them again. And you go, wow, that's 4. And then eventually, when that thing reaches Mars and it hopefully gets into a successful orbit, that's 5. So he's got to accomplish like 5 impossible things. Well, not impossible, but very, very difficult and challenging tasks. And so, and I was just baffled when I was looking at the sky, trying to figure out what was lighting up that cloud. Where was the light coming from? And that's just because the sun was setting, so it looks dark, but up in the sky, the sun is still out, and it's reflecting off the clouds. That's what they tell me. The conspiracy theorists would have you thinking otherwise. But anyway, so they are launching a rocket today, and if you Google rocket launch Vandenberg Air Force Base, you can pull up the full schedule of rockets. This year alone, I think they're launching between SpaceX and Delta 9, and there's a couple other rocket companies. I think there's somewhere around 40 rockets being launched this year, about 6 a month. Not out of Vandenberg. They launch them in other countries. They launch them in Florida. They launch them here. And it just, it's really neat to be able to look out in the sky and see that. And I was so naive. I thought we were just in a good viewing place. I didn't realize people in San Diego could see it, people in Tucson could see it. So if you see that, don't freak out, it's not North Korea, you're okay. Listen, what goes through your mind when you see it, and you don't, nobody knows anything about it. So with that now, Windows 7, how many people here running Windows 7? How many people here running Windows XP? Windows 8? Windows 10? Good, good. All right, Windows 7, you've got until January, I think 14th of 2020. You will have to be off Windows 7 by midnight of that day because that's when Microsoft stops supporting it. If you continue to use Windows 7, it'll be almost no different than somebody continuing to use Windows XP today. That exploit I started off talking to you about, there's no fix for that for Windows XP. When if you go to the store and you buy a new printer, there's probably no drivers to make that printer work in Windows XP. Trying to find antivirus that works may be difficult. And so this is what ends up happening with an old operating system. It won't stop running the day after support ends, but it starts to erode very, very quickly. And so you're best, in my opinion, to just not go down that road at all and be more proactive and keep yourself updated with whatever is the current supported operating system, which right now is Windows 10. Does anybody have any complaints about Windows 10? Yes?
Pictures.
Pictures. You don't like the way pictures?
No, photographs. All the storage. It's here, it's there. You can't even find them all.
Oh, finding the pictures.
Yes.
One of the things I do like regards to pictures with Windows 10 is I like the photo editor. I would always have to bring up like Adobe Photoshop, something like that, to do very simple things to my photos. I generally want to just crop them and brighten them up, increase the color saturation. That's it. And now with Windows 10, that's all built into the Paint program or the photo program, whatever they call it. I can get in and get out real quick with those real simple things. So there is some good with the bad. Unfortunately, whenever we go from one version of Windows to another, Microsoft, I don't know why, they have the need to move stuff around, and then we have to it's like having somebody come over and clean your house. It looks great, but you just can't find anything anymore. Did the person who cleaned my house steal from me? Or is it just somewhere I can't find it? However, it can be a jarring move to jump over to jump versions of Windows, to go from 7 to 10, may be a bit of a jarring transition. It makes the process a little more difficult, and the longer you put off getting Windows 10, the harder it gets, because there's already been 5 versions of Windows 10. And I'm upset that Microsoft, in their brilliance, that's sarcasm, has decided that Windows 10 will be the last name of Windows. Well, you call me, I'm a computer technician, you call me, you say I have a computer problem, and I say to you, what version of Windows do you have? And you go, Windows 10. Then I need to know, what version of Windows 10 do you have? That's unfortunately not as easy to determine. Not without having you go in and type like WinVer or look at some internal information. It's not just there on your screen for you to just, you have to know a command to bring that information up. And then eventually the name will get long in the tooth and it will feel old, because Microsoft, instead of calling it Windows 10.1 or 10.2 or 10.3, they're just calling it Windows 10, and then hidden within the code it'll say the build number. Typically the build number is the month and the year that it was released. Microsoft is planning a new Windows 10 about every fall and every spring. And that's what's been happening. And it just happens automatically. Your computer will download it, and you'll go through this big install, and then it should mostly look the same to you, but they've added features and things depending on the changes from one version to another. But make no mistake about it, it's a whole new version of the operating system. So they came out with one, I think it was July of 2016. Was it July, or I can't remember. And so the version was 1607 for July of 2016. 1703, that would have been March of 17. And the current version, I believe, is 1709, which is September of 2017. But they're all Windows 10. 5 versions. Kill me. It's tough. It's tough because it's hard to be able to provide the customer fast support without, in many cases, I need to know that version. You always want to be running the latest version. It's free, it costs you nothing. But it does take a long time to download and install. It's a big download. Again, Windows does it eventually on its own, so there's really nothing you have to do. I'm just making you aware of it. In most cases, you really shouldn't notice a difference with regards to how Windows works or operates, but you might be interested to find out what new features were added. There might be something there that you find quite useful. Many of you who've known me over the years know, I'm glad, oh, we have a question?
Yes, what is your feeling on that fix-it stick?
The fix-it stick. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up. On TV, you'll see things advertised like the fix-it stick, PC Medic. There's a few others. These things that they advertise on TV or you see in the like Target or Walmart, they're like in a little clamshell package. They're a complete, this is my opinion, they're a complete waste of money. There is nothing on that fix-it stick that you can't go download for free off the internet. Number one. Number two, there's no piece of software that can fix hardware. If your engine in your car is failing, you cannot go into Checker Auto Parts and go, what are these additives can I use to make my engine, to fix my engine? Will this fuel additive fix my spark plug? Probably not. I had somebody, when I was doing my YouTube videos, I had one of the viewers ask me if there was a tool they could download that could tell them what's wrong with their computer. Which is, to me, like saying, is there a way that I could learn how to fix a computer without having to learn anything? Like, I'm not quite sure they understood what they were asking me. I advise you to stay away from all that stuff. Anything that claims to make your computer faster, to tune your computer up, that claims to be the best security software, I recommend you avoid all of it. I find most of it to be snake oil at best, and to create computer problems at worst, where you have suddenly new issues that you never had before. And sometimes this stuff can be very, very difficult to uninstall. And then that's when you're calling me up. Now, maybe I'm a bad salesman and I should be recommending all of you guys go buy that and take my card. I'm not a very good salesman. So I generally say avoid that stuff. If it's got the little logo that says as seen on TV, as far as computer stuff goes, run far from it. Yes, sir.
How about things like Malware and some of those software packages? Are there certain things you would recommend people use?
Absolutely. So when it comes to protecting your computer, there are two programs I recommend. One is called Malware. I've been recommending these guys for years. They do an excellent job. You can download it for free and get a 15-day free trial. The difference between the paid version and the free version is the free version won't prevent any infections from occurring. It'll only clean up infections you already have. So you want the paid version to prevent the infections. One of the things I like about Malware, oftentimes people will call me and they'll have a virus. So inevitably they'll ask, what did I do to get that virus? I have no idea what you did. Well, when did I get it? I have no idea when you got it. I wasn't there, but I can assure you, you did something you shouldn't have done. You clicked on an email attachment, or you clicked on a web link. At some point you clicked install. Don't click install. And, well, how do I prevent that in the future? Well, don't click install. And they will insist, I don't remember ever clicking install. I don't know what you're talking about. With a program like Malware, what I like about it when you have the paid version is the instant you have clicked on something that you shouldn't have, most of the time, there's no such thing as 100% protection. But most of the time it'll pop up and go, hey, what you just did, that's a virus or that's spyware. And then now you're learning. Now you can go, oh, I can associate that. And you know right in that moment, it's fresh on your mind, what you just did and how your computer just reacted, and you learn not to do that. That's what I really, really like about Malware is that, again, the paid version is that instantaneous feedback because otherwise without it, it's all happening in the background and then you have no idea, and it could be weeks or months later before you feel the effects, and then I get the call, and then I get that question, what did I do, when did I do it? Yes? Oh, hold on, we're going to bring a microphone over to you.
What do you do when you have on your computer, there's something wrong with your computer and call isn't this number, which I did. And then they sold me a program for, I don't know, $100 and some, which I paid. And after 2 months, not even, and that's supposed to be, I don't know, 2 years or so. And then, after 2 months, nothing happened. And it was again, call. So, and I called him up and I said, look, that is a fraud. What did you do with me? So, and my computer don't work anymore. So I go to Best Buy, they said, there was a virus and they fixed it, and I pay again $165 or something. As soon as that was fixed, maybe 6 weeks after, or not even, the same thing happened again. So, and I ended up to buy a new computer. So, and this is this, what is that called? But it sounded like they was from overseas, somewhere from Asia or so, the voices. And the computer guy, he said, well, we know that, and we cannot do anything about it.
All right, so couple of things. If you receive a phone call, so we are living in times where the world has become very small. We're making long-distance phone calls is completely free anywhere around the world, where we can have caller ID spoofed to appear to be a different number. I can call you from what appears to be the Glendale Police Department. Your phone will say Glendale Police Department. And I can do it all through what's called a VPN, where it is completely untraceable. Nobody can help you. So you have to help yourself. Only you can prevent yourself from being a victim of a scam. Here are your warning alerts that you're about to be scammed. One, you're getting a phone call where they're demanding money. And they want you to pay that money typically through gift cards like Walmart or Target or Walgreens. They'll ask you if there's one of these stores nearby. They'll claim they're from APS or SRP, the local power company. They'll claim they're from your cell phone company. They'll claim they're from the IRS and that there's a warrant for your arrest because of back due taxes unless you pay this money now. They'll claim your computer has a virus when it doesn't. They don't know who they're calling. It's a random, it calls 555-0000. The machine calls 555-0001, 555-0002, 555-0003. It's all automated. It cycles through every number possible. They don't know who they're talking to. When they call you, they don't know who you are. So I have fun with them. I know they don't know me any more than I know them. So I get a call. A message is left on my answering machine, and it says, it's an automated thing, and it's kind of hard to understand, but basically it says, the cops are going to arrest me. It's the IRS. And I call the number back, and I actually make videos of this, of me having these conversations with these guys, because it's funny, and you also get to learn their script and how convincing they can be. In almost every single case, the people that you speak to on the phone will be from India or Pakistan. Unfortunately, big corporations also legitimately hire people out of India and Pakistan to answer their phones. So it's possible that the same building that Microsoft is hiring people in has another floor that takes advantage of their relationship with Microsoft to then reach out to others unofficially and scam people out of their hard-earned money. Now, they arrested some of these folks in India, and they boast about it. When they were arrested, they did not have shame. They said, Americans are fat, stupid, and don't deserve what they have. So good for us for taking a little bit from them. They don't feel remorse. They don't feel what they're doing is wrong. When I say they, I'm referring to the people that are doing this crime, not everybody in India or Pakistan. But they actually honestly have a disdain for Americans and celebrate any time you believe their nonsense. So, one of the other things they do is they will have websites that will pop up and it'll say, your computer's infected, call this number. Never, not once, never is that ever real. And when you voluntarily pick up the phone and call that number, you are calling a scammer. And when you're giving them your credit card number, I hope you shut that credit card off and have it replaced because it's probably being sold on the dark web. They're just there to rip you off. So if you're getting a call from a number that you don't identify on your, like I have everybody I know in my caller ID. If the number comes up as an unrecognized number that I don't know, I let it go to voicemail. These scam artists rarely ever leave voicemails. Oftentimes, the numbers they call you from are fake. So if you call them back, you'll often get messages that the number can't be completed as dialed, or all circuits are busy, something along those lines. That's another clue that it was a scam artist. Now, I like to play and toy with them. So I had a guy call me, said he was from the IRS. And I said, really? Me too. Are you in the DC office? He says, yeah. I said, are you on the 6th floor or 7th floor? He goes, what? I said, are you under Smith or are you under Wesson? He goes, Smith. I go, me too. I'm standing up in my cubicle waving right now. Can you see me? And then click. Here's the other thing that scammers do. If you're like, let's say you're new to this and you're like, I'm getting that phone call he warned me about. How do I test the waters? Just play stupid. Feel free to ask questions. And if you can be a little accusational, These folks have a short temper and will start cursing at you. And you know, no employee of any American corporation is going to use the F word to you on the phone. But they will. They will curse you out. If you say, I think you're a scammer, just say that, I think you're a scammer. And the guy starts swearing up and down at you, you know he's a scammer. I'm trying to help you, damn it. No. And he won't say damn it. He'll say something worse than that. So, unfortunately, we live in a world now where you can't assume that somebody calling you, who you've never spoken to before, is actually trying to help you at all. In fact, quite the opposite. There's a comedian named Sebastian Maniscalco, and he talks about, in the 70s, somebody would just come over, there'd be a knock at the door we're not expecting, and, oh my God, someone's at the door. Who could it be? You open the door, oh, it's my friend Bobby. Bobby, what are you doing here? Oh, I was in the neighborhood, I thought I'd stop by, see the kids. Come on in, come on in. Your mom would have that coffee cake that, the kids couldn't touch because in case company came over. Break out the Sanka. You want some coffee? Bring out the Sanka. I was just laughing. He goes, today, someone knocks on the door you're not expecting. It's, quick, get down. Turn the lights out. Shh. Wait till they go away. And it's because we get so harassed with solicitors. We had somebody come over to the house, and my wife, I was out, so my wife was home, and I was so upset. They said, can we get a sample? We're here from the water quality department. Can we get a sample of your water? And she's thinking, what's the harm in that? They wait outside. They give her an empty bottle. She takes it over to the kitchen sink. She fills it. And then she gives it back, and they said, we'll be in touch with you over the results of your water. They don't say it directly, but they imply that they're with the city and they're with the water department, when in fact they're selling water softeners. And the callback is to make an appointment to come into your home and sit down with you and discuss water softening treatment plans they offer. And I would never participate in that. So I ended up calling the company back up. They gave a little card, and I said, you weren't authorized. The person who answered the door was not authorized to give you this. We want no part of it. We're not making an appointment. And I've had other people come in and say that they or knock on the door and want to sell me a security system. And this one I love. This. They go, yeah, we're installing security systems. They're completely free. You just pay for the monitoring. I said, I already have a security system. Guy looks at his clipboard, kind of confused. Well, and keep in mind, I'm holding back two big dogs that are trying to attack him, right? I've got a security door, and I'm holding these dogs. And I already have a security system. He goes, who's it made by? I said, you'll forgive me if I'm not going to tell a complete stranger who just came to my house who my security system is made by. I mean, obviously, if you're in the business, you know how to bypass certain models and brands. What I'm not telling you is you're looking right at my security system. You don't have 30 seconds to enter a code on this one. And I don't know if they're genuine or if they're scoping me out. I'm told, I don't know if it's ever happened to me, but I'm told people will knock on the door that are prospective thieves. And the first thing is to just see if anybody's home, and if they're home, just make up a story about you're selling something. If they're not home, time to start looking in how to get inside. It's a very common first attempt that a thief may make, apart from just watching the house. So we have all these ways. I guess what I'm getting at is you just have to kind of look out for yourself. It's great that we have this freedom as Americans, and as such, some risks come with that. And one of those risks has become being very, very skeptical of some stranger wanting something from you, whether it's at your front door, whether it's on the screen of your computer, or over the telephone. That skepticism needs to be there, especially when it starts involving money. Now, if you have given out your credit card number to one of these companies, I advise you to dispute the charge. Even if it's been longer than 30 days, you can still try and dispute that charge. And have the card turned off. Just tell the credit card company you believe the card's been stolen. They'll shut your card off and they will issue you a new card, and so you'll go a week or two without a card. And then your new card will arrive and everything will be okay, and don't make that mistake anymore. If you're going to use your card, use a credit card, not a debit card, because you're protected. They'll spend the bank's money instead of spending the money out of your checking account. So always make sure you use the credit card for purchases online. That way you're backed. Say, how many people have had unauthorized charges on your credit card ever? How many of you had to pay for those unauthorized charges? You did?
Well, I've got one in litigation right now, and I've paid it, but it's still in litigation.
Okay. Everybody but you put their hands down. And the point I was getting at was that if it was your debit card, it'd be different. It's your money. But when it's the bank's money, let them take it. I don't care. We have a question, yes.
We have a situation where sometimes it's every day, several times a day, our home phone, not our cell phone, but our home phone will ring 5 times, and we do not bother to answer it. I check what it says on there, and that's the end of it. And sometimes at the end, but that has to be scammed, does it not?
Well, it's probably a scammer.
Yeah, but I mean, on and on every day sometimes.
Yeah, so oftentimes what I do is if the phone rings, so this a lot of people will be shocked because I've always had a flip phone, and I was expecting the room to go, I finally joined the rest of the sheep and got one of these, so I can now be brainwashed. But this will pop up and say, unidentified number, potential spam, and then I can block it. But unfortunately, I never see the same number twice. So blocking it's sort of an effort in futility. And blocking it doesn't actually block it, it just makes it so my phone doesn't ring. So every once in a while I look and it says I've got a voicemail. I'm like, well, how did I have a voicemail? My phone didn't ring. And it was from a blocked number. What I do, rather than letting those go to voicemail, again, I like to have fun with them. If my phone was ringing regularly, like you're describing, I would start answering it as quickly as possible. And I would say, Glendale Police Department, how may I direct your call? That usually puts you on the do not call list. Now, I suppose it's illegal to impersonate a police officer. However, that's not a police officer calling you, I hope. Or I just gave you some really bad advice. And it just kind of gets to be, scamming the scammer, if you will. They don't know who you are. They just have a random number. Numbers that answer, they know are good numbers, and they sell those numbers. Numbers that answer and give them credit card numbers, they sell the credit card numbers and the number and say, we got a hot one here. This is a good one. So if you get that thing on your computer screen that says, you have a virus, you need to call this number, just either close that screen. If it won't let you close it, turn your computer off. Just hit the power button, let it go. It'll cycle off, and then turn it back on again. Whatever it takes to close that window. Sometimes, and then you got to think about how you got there. You probably clicked on a link that was not legitimate, and it took you to this site, this fake website. And these sites move around a lot. What was there yesterday probably isn't there today. Now there's a new one. So they're not going away anytime soon. And it's not like it's just one site you have to avoid. It's mainly about, clicking the wrong link on a search or clicking on a link in an email, something like that is normally how you get that. It's not just happening on its own. You're bringing it up. So when you do that, try and remember what you did that brought that up so that when you reboot your computer, you don't go back there again. If you do, just reboot the computer again until it finally sinks in. Stop doing that. But whatever you do, don't pick up the phone and call unless you have a lot of time on your hands, you want to waste their time and discourage them and play absolutely stupid and just have fun with it. Go, yeah, it says my computer has a virus, and to call this number, they go, yeah, go ahead and click on W I'm sorry, click on what? And just make them repeat themselves over and over and over. Ask them if they have somebody there that speaks English. That really upsets them because they're speaking English. I'm sorry, I don't know what language you're speaking. Oh, you'll get on their nerves, and just try and make a contest out of, hey, I kept the guy on the phone for 90 minutes. And I know during those 90 minutes he wasn't able to scam anybody else, and I feel good about it. Unfortunately, I don't always have a spare 90 minutes. So sometimes just a quick, Glendale Police Department, how may I direct your call? And that's enough. Everybody's getting these calls. People that work for the Federal Trade Commission get these calls. They're the ones who are supposed to go after these people. They can't make their phone stop ringing. Yes?
You just said, click the power button and turn your computer off. Is that acceptable, or do you need to go through your start and power down?
On all Windows-based computers, if you hit the power button and let it go, press and release, it goes through the exact same process as if you clicked on start. If the computer's not responsive, if the mouse doesn't move, it doesn't seem to be doing anything, hold the power button in for 10 seconds and the computer will forcibly shut off. So there's a difference between holding it down for 10 seconds, which is not good for the computer, but if the computer is not responding, you have a little choice, versus press and release, which will run you through the shutdown process no differently than clicking on start and shutdown. It's exactly the same thing. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But if you're on a screen, like, a lot of times once these screens pop up that say you have a virus and to call this number, a lot of times you can't get rid of those screens. A lot of times it won't let you shut the computer off. So you just hit press and release the power button. Obviously you want to make sure anything you were working on is saved before you do that. But don't call those numbers, not unless you just want to have some fun with them. If you have an issue like this, or you know somebody who has an issue like this, my advice is take my card and call me. Because the fact that you ended up going over to Best Buy, they charge outrageous fees, they hire people who have very little experience, and you have to bring the computer to them. I come out to people's homes, I pick their computer up, bring it back to my place, work on it, and deliver it back to you for a $125 flat fee. Geek Squad can't compare with that, and I've got 20 years in the business. I've been working on computers a long time. And I charge them less, I'm faster turnaround. Everybody here knows me. There's you can ask anybody who's used my services. You're not dealing with going from one unknown person who called you on the phone that created the problem, going to another unknown person at Best Buy who, well, legit, doesn't have much experience, or they wouldn't be working at Best Buy, quite frankly. So a lot of the stuff they do at Best Buy is on-the-job training, and then when somebody gets really good and they want more money, Best Buy won't give it to them and they leave. So there's a chance you get somebody who knows what they're doing, in my experience, at the Geek Squad. But the chances of them being there when you come back months later, if they're good, they're probably gone. That's just, obviously, the less money the corporation spends, the more profit they make. So they hire the cheapest help they can get, which is not the most qualified help. So bear that in mind when you're looking for a computer tech. I'm a big promoter of small business owners because I am a small business owner. I'd much rather give my business to a mom and pop or to somebody who takes a lot of pride, if they're a plumber or they're a mechanic, than taking it to just a generic garage where you don't know who's working on it. Other questions? Yes?
What is your opinion of Avast?
What is my opinion of Avast? I did start talking about malware bytes, and this leads into that sort of discussion. There are two programs that I recommend for antivirus or anti-malware. One is Malware Bytes that I've already mentioned. The other one is called MCSoft, which is EMSISOFT. EMSISOFT. I don't recommend them both. I recommend one or the other. You only want one antivirus on your system, or things start to slow down and get kind of wonky. There are lots of antiviruses to choose from. There's Avast, AVG, Avira. Those are 3 free ones. McAfee, that comes free with Cox Communications. I think those are all completely worthless. personally. Just better off having nothing. Windows 10 comes with Windows Defender, or Microsoft Security Essentials, which is its own built-in antivirus, which is adequate. The problem is, we're dealing with a lot more than just viruses today. We're dealing with ransomware, pop-ups, website redirection, spyware, adware, and that's where Malwarebytes really comes in and shines. MCSoft does both malware and antivirus. They both run about $40 a year. I think they're really good products. The ones that are free, like Avast, where they have a free version, any product that is free means the product is you. You're paying a price for it. You're paying with pop-ups, advertising. I mean, they got to pay the bills somehow. And ultimately, it's not very good antivirus protection when compared to others. The great big fish are often the slowest. So McAfee, Norton, those big giant whales, I avoid those like the plague. Kaspersky, the US government won't use them because they're Russian. I don't see any reason why you and I can't use Kaspersky. It's always been a good antivirus. And I don't think the Russians really care what you and I are buying at Amazon. Maybe they do, but I don't think so. And the owner of Kaspersky is very frustrated because he claims he has no ties to the Russian government. The Russian government cannot influence him. And by making the Kaspersky products illegal to use in government, they lose a lot of money. They're really upset about it. They don't think it's fair. And I agree, I don't think it's fair either. It's sort of like, look, you know, I know you're friends with this Putin guy, so you and I can't be friends anymore because I'm afraid he can influence you. Well, aren't I my own person? Can't I decide? No. So then people see this on the news and they go, oh, you better not use that Kaspersky because the US government won't use it. I mean, decide for yourself, but I would have no problem, no hesitation recommending Kaspersky. It's never been my first choice. My first choice would be Malwarebytes and MCSoft. Avast, AVG, and Avira, they're just, this free business model is very difficult to sustain. It's paid for with advertising and by tracking what you do to sell that to marketing companies. You are the product when the product is free. That's pretty much the way it is. The free version of McAfee that comes from, if you have Cox Cable, you can get free McAfee. I think, personally, it's worthless. It might make you feel good to see it. One of the things you can do just to see how well your antivirus is working, regardless of what antivirus you've got. MCSoft offers a free, you can all do this, everybody in this room, I recommend you do this. They call it the MCSoft Emergency Kit, or EEK, E-E-K. So if I just type up here, MCSoft EEK, the search engine will take me right to the first link. It's a free portable malware scan and removal. Everybody in this room can do this. You don't have to disable your current antivirus. You don't have to, all you have to do is download this file and run it, and it will scan your computer. And if it finds anything, that should open your eyes to just how well your antivirus is or is not protecting you. Because if your antivirus is working as well as MCSoft would be working, then it should come up with 0 items found. If you do a scan and MCSoft finds nothing, it says, congratulations, your computer's clean, then you're doing everything right, don't change a thing. But if it does come up with items, then you have a decision to make. Do I want to keep my antivirus? Do I want to replace it? And the one that I love, my favorite one is, do I want to wait until the subscription I paid for is expired so I can get my money's worth of getting ripped off? I don't understand this logic. I don't get it. It's like the guy at the buffet who's like, I want to make sure that I'm going to eat myself into a $100,000 heart attack so they know I got my $9.95 worth. Shoveling that food in. I don't get it. Make sure they know I was here. Get my $10 worth. Fast forward to the operating room and the surgeon going, sponge. Other questions? Yes?
How do you get that
Just so the way you would get MCSoft is I just go to Google and I type MCSoft right into Google, EMSI, if I can spell, and then EEK, short for Emergency, MCSoft Emergency Kit. And you'll see these first links that come up are the right ones. That's why I like Google versus Yahoo or Bing. It's always like right there on the top. And you'll see it's taking me to mcsoft.com. It's going to download. You'll see down here on the bottom right corner, it's going to start downloading. It's about a 350 meg download, so you definitely don't want to be doing this on dial-up. And then once it downloads, I run it. And then let it scan. And if it finds anything you want to remove anything, if you don't worry about what it is, you don't have to worry about where did this come from, what does it do. It's a huge waste of time, in my opinion. Just if it finds anything, tell it to remove everything that it finds and then restart your computer. Maybe run another scan, make sure it's clean. And then it's up to you to really decide if what you've got for antivirus you might want to change. There's a lot of antivirus programs out there. I've only scratched the surface by naming about 6 of them. There's about 50. So I just kind of stick to the popular name brands, like there's ESET and there's a bunch of them. So I just try and keep it simple instead of naming them all and confusing you with what did he say? I want to just keep repeating MCSoft or Malware Bytes. One or the other, MCSoft or Malware Bytes. That's it, nobody else. If you were my customer, that's what I would be recommending to you. I would never say what you've got is good enough if it's not one of those. Yes?
I'm using both Malware Bytes and AVG Antivirus. Are you saying I don't need AVG anymore because Malware covers it?
You've got AVG now, and you're running it alongside Malware Bytes.
That's correct.
Windows 7 or Windows 10?
10.
So Windows 10's Defender is better than AVG in my opinion.
Okay.
So I would let Defender, I would take AVG off. Microsoft should say, hey, you don't have antivirus, I'm going to turn Defender on, but you can just verify after you've removed AVG and restarted your computer, Windows Defender should run. And as long as you're paying for Malware Bytes, you've got the paid premium version, that's all you need. Just the Windows Defender and Malware Bytes. But it still wouldn't hurt, even if you're running Malware Bytes, to download this MCSoft kit because it costs you nothing. And it gives you a free second opinion. And it will find some things. Typically, they're very minor things. Typically, they'll be potentially unwanted programs or PUPs. I've never seen a potentially unwanted program that I potentially wanted. They should be called CUPs, completely unwanted programs. That's why I say you can remove them with impunity. You don't have to study it, just whatever it is. If it's a list that's got one thing or a list that's got a, just select it all, delete or quarantine and restart. And then you're good. Other questions? Yes. Oh, here, we're going to bring the mic to you.
Can you have more than one antivirus system?
Can you have more than one antivirus? Yeah. I'm always trying to think of clever, sort of humorous ways to answer questions. Can you have more than one wife? You can, but you probably shouldn't. That's kind of the way it is with antivirus. You want one antivirus. What ends up happening when you have more than one is they start to battle over scanning files, and then your computer will seem to slow down. You won't have as much memory available for things you actually want to do. And it sort of becomes almost like those houses you see, those apartments in New York where they have all those locks on the doors. Like if there's a fire, you have to go click, 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 click. And then, you know, it's actually causing you more harm when it was intended to protect you. And in such a way, having no antivirus would be like having no lock on your door. Having one antivirus would be like having a reasonable bolt on your door. Having two antivirus would be like putting multiple bolts on your door when in the meantime the guy comes in through the window. So basically, one good antivirus. And that can be the free antivirus that's included with Windows 10. Then if you're doing that, then you just want an anti-malware or anti-malicious software, which would be Malwarebytes. Or if you want better antivirus protection along with the malware protection, that's where MCSoft comes in. So you can run multiple antiviruses, but you shouldn't. There's no benefit to it. The only exception would be this emergency kit that you run temporarily just for a second opinion. It doesn't run all the time. It's just that one-time use. Other questions? Let's get the microphone. Here we go. We got a microphone coming.
I have a Windows 10 HP laptop. After the last update for Windows 10 in December, now I get a pop-up when I go to close it out. It says it's from HP, and it says there's an app running that's preventing shutdown. Click here anyway to shut down. What should I do with that? What is it? And how can I get rid of it?
Well, it doesn't sound like anything that's happening is interrupting your ability to do work. This sounds like you're just annoyed that the message pops up that shouldn't be there, that has no negative impact on your ability to use the computer. So my advice would be to ignore it. You can, if you're a glutton for punishment, call or email HP about the problem. I'm sure they're aware of it. It's probably, it may not have anything to do with HP. It could be something else you've installed that needs an update to fully integrate with the latest version of Windows 10. This is not uncommon, especially with older software. I had a customer that was running an old version of, I think it was QuickBooks, that was designed for Windows 7. They were running it in 10, and it was working, but it kept letting them know, hey, you need to update this. And then after an update came out, I mean, they were running it that way for years. And after an update came out, now QuickBooks won't run at all. And they're like, well, it did run before. Like, yeah, and it was warning you before, and you ignored it. Well, because it always worked. And it was telling you, before I stop working, you better replace me. Well, now you've waited until it stopped working, and now you have to replace it. So I encounter that sometimes when I repair a computer, and I'm done, and I'll go to shut it down, and I'll see something's not, it's waiting on something in the background to shut down. It won't tell me what it is. I often don't bother to fix that, to be honest, because it's just, you're shutting down. And if it was a desktop and not a laptop, I would say just leave it on 24/7. It's better for the computer. In my experience, most computer problems happen when you turn them on. So if you leave it on, chances are it'll last a lot longer without problems. But not if it's a laptop. Laptops are not designed to be turned on and left on 24/7. You could have serious heat problems. And then the dust that it collects is much more difficult to clear out of a laptop than it is for a desktop. With a desktop, I just get my leaf blower out. And it's fascinating here in Arizona how quickly dust builds up. And a lot of times, one of the first things I do when I get a customer's desktop in my office is I blow the dust or dirt out of it. And those little cans of compressed air were costing me an arm and a leg. Now this video I did a long time ago, but this is just an example of a typical customer's PC where I'm taking the cover off of the side, and I'm going to look at the inside of it and see just how dusty it is in there. And it can be deceiving. Sometimes it doesn't look that dusty. This one's pretty nasty though. This is just normal use. This is not somebody who has a particularly dirty house. You know, this is no insult to the owner of the computer. They don't go in there, they don't know. And that's buildup of probably a couple of years right there. And that's a little hairier than, normally the desert dust is a kind of a fine powder. And it can be very difficult to, it doesn't look that bad until you hit it with a leaf blower and a big mushroom cloud comes out of it.
Are you blowing or vacuuming?
I'm sorry?
Are you blowing or vacuuming?
You don't want to vacuum. You don't want anything to make contact with any of the parts, or an electrostatic discharge could take place. Look at that. See how that? You always want to blow the dirt out. You don't want to make contact. I don't want that plastic nozzle of a vacuum cleaner or a brush to touch anything inside of that computer. If an electrostatic discharge takes place, it can cause all kinds of weird problems. And you'll see I also hit the back of the power supply where the fan is on the back. You'll see another big cloud of smoke come out of that. It's that little box that sits up at the top, well, it's on your top left of the case. And if I'm going to move that leaf blower to the back, am I going to do it? All right, well, it took all of about 30 seconds, and now there's no video magic here. I'm just grabbing the camera and showing what the inside looks like now. That's how effective that leaf blower is, and the leaf blower is cheap. You don't have to use a leaf blower. I do this several times a week. So those cans of compressed air.
How do you clean a laptop?
A laptop would have to be disassembled to be cleaned.
I noticed that your internet, are you on the internet now?
I'm on my phone's hotspot.
I was wondering why it's so fast. You had a hard drive on your computer?
All computers have a hard drive.
Not a flop, not the, what's the one, the solid state?
Yeah, I believe this does have a solid state drive. Yeah. We have a question over here. We're going to bring the microphone to you so we can hear you. All the way over here.
When our computer updates, we lose our drivers for printers and a GPS update, and they'll have to be reinstalled. Now my printers won't be wireless, but anyhow, is that normal to lose the drivers when it updates?
Is it normal to lose drivers when you receive Windows updates? Typically, driver updates are optional and you have to pick them. If you don't pick them, they should not install automatically. So no, it's not normal. When you go to Windows Update, it should offer you critical updates and optional updates. Optional updates will be drivers. And sometimes those drivers are wrong. Things like network card drivers, sound card drivers can cause those devices to stop working. Same with printers. So I advise under those optional ones, if everything's working okay, don't install new drivers or you'll end up in that situation. Going with the regular security updates should have no impact on your drivers. However, when you're going from one version of Windows 10 to a new version of Windows 10, it installs newer drivers, and that can cause things to stop working. So it is possible. And in that particular case, you would need to either have a technician look at it or contact the manufacturer of the device itself. If it's the printer, if it's the sound card, you would contact the motherboard manufacturer. If it's a Dell or HP, you would contact Dell or HP. If it was something you wanted to fix yourself. I have a question.
What password program are you, is the good one now?
So when it comes to remembering passwords, people never fail to entertain me. Most popular passwords 2017. Do you guys have any idea what the most popular password is? Password? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Place your bets, place your bets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. QWERTY. That's just going right across the top row of the keyboard. Password. What cracks me up is when people sit there and want to have a discussion with me about security and privacy. I won't use that Windows 10, it spies on you. But they're using the same password on every website they go to called password or whatever. And there's a list here of the top 25 most used passwords. And what's interesting is if you start looking through the list, we see 111111. These are people that don't take their password seriously, and when they get hacked, I don't feel sorry for them. You're just asking for it. But what's interesting is when you get to like this password here, this is an interesting lesson. Do you see that one? It's 18ATC SKD2W. What does that mean and why is it so popular? Well, that is a nonsense password. So it's a good password. But why did it make it to the top 25? Does anybody have any idea why such a bizarre password would be in the top 25? The hackers, when they steal your account, they all agree to change the password to something the other hackers will know. So when your account gets hacked and they change your password, there's a good chance it was changed to that. That's how many accounts are being hacked each and every day, that's made it into the top 25. And it's not the only one. There's a few others in there that are nonsensical. Here's one that's LQ2W3. You can see the 1, 2, 3, 4 in there, right? And QWER, you see what they did there? So yes, so sometimes when you see these passwords that are nonsensical and they're in the top 25, that lets you know that's from somebody's account who's been hacked. So it's important that you have a very good password, but then how do you remember them? I like to use a program called RoboForm or LastPass. So RoboForm is at roboform.com. That's what I personally use. And the way RoboForm works, or even LastPass, is you have one password you have to remember. And that's the password that unlocks RoboForm, where you can then have all different kinds of passwords. So you want that to be a good, strong password that no one will ever know, because if they know that one, they'll know all of them. Right? That's the downside. On the other hand, you can access your passwords from anywhere. If you're on a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean, you could use their computer to log into RoboForm and have access to your passwords, and if you need to go to your bank or something, you could do that safely and securely. LastPass works similarly. It's a little less money. There's a couple others out there, but the only two that I recommend are RoboForm and LastPass, and they work in a very similar way. LastPass is a little cheaper, and they'll even generate passwords for you. Generally speaking, you want a password that's at least 12 characters long, and ideally, it is not a mixture of letters and numbers and uppercase and lowercase and symbols, but instead is a phrase that you might say. I like my Ford F-150. I don't know, capitalize the F in Ford. That's a great passphrase. That's harder to crack, believe it or not, than J7K52 exclamation point. Not only is it harder to crack, but it's easier to remember. So try to think of passwords instead as passphrases, and just make a little statement. And ideally, change that around for different websites so you're not using the same password in case one site gets hacked. We all see in the news, somebody got hacked today or last week, and once they have that password, then they might try to match it with your email address to other accounts. So that's why it's important to use different passwords. You don't need to change them very often unless you think you've been hacked. Some people advise changing a password every 3 months. You don't need to do that. That's ridiculous. If you think you've been hacked, change it. And try to use different passwords, and let a program password manager like RoboForm or LastPass keep all that organized for you.
We have to, I'm sorry, we do have to leave. Bill Harris will be here, but would you consider coming back?
I'm always, of course. I'm happy to be back.
We want Carrie to come back in March.
Thank you guys so much. First of all, thank you for coming to see me. I'm always happy to be here. I've got some business cards up here if you want. And thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Good luck. Okay, we're going to make this really fast.